Hello friends, and welcome to The Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, you might have noticed by the thumbnail for this video that this is the second video in my series that I am calling my deck dive. Think deep dive into a deck, all mashed together. So my deck dive series. This is a series in which I choose one deck and I work with it for about a month, and then I come on and I tell you what I think of the deck. And I've got a deck already prepared for us, friends, and it is exactly this. I have been working with the Ritual Tarot for about a month, like I said, and I've got some insights, some things I've liked, some things I haven't liked as much, and I'm here to spill the beans. So, before we turn the camera down, let me just give you a brief introduction to the deck. There are two versions of this deck. Yeah, I have, full disclosure, I have both, but this is the second edition. It's called the Marked Edition, the Ritual Tarot Marked Edition. It's by Tierra May, a wonderful artist. She does, what do we call it? It's not digital collage, it's analog collage, you know, the cutting and pasting of things together in the physical world. She does analog collage, and that's how she made this beautiful deck. The deck was originally first introduced on Kickstarter in 2023, which is where I got my copy. I'm not sure how her first deck was initially published, but I also have a copy of that, but this is the Marked Edition. It's printed by Shuffle Inc. in the United States, and it is sold on tarotarts.com, and I'll have a link in the description box below if you want to go over and purchase a copy of this deck, and I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful deck. I'll tell you why I highly recommend it when we turn the camera down. So, friends, I have spent some time working with this dear little beauty, and my feelings for it have changed over time. So if you're curious about that, if you're curious about seeing a lot of the cards, and you want to sit with me with this deck for a little while, for a chunk of time, then stay tuned and we will turn the camera down and look at it together. Are you all ready, friends? Let's dive in together. Friends, this is the wonderful Ritual Tarot. Now, if you saw my first deck dive video, the first in this series, you will notice that I have reorganized the way I'm going to present the deck a little bit. Hopefully this reorganization is going to be more beneficial for both you and I. But we are going to start with the packaging, because the packaging, I think, for this deck is wonderful. And I'll tell you why. First, when we look at the cover, we can tell that the artwork is going to be very analog collage style, right? We can see the letters cut out on the cover, right, for the title, the name of the creator, Tierra May. I love having this image of sage there by symbolically at least, continuing to cleanse this deck as we use it. It's a wonderful idea. It's a two-part box, yes, has a very easy to use cover, and the inside of the cover is blank, but we have the edges of the cover, a wonderful sigil here. We've got some very magical protection, I believe, on this deck in several ways. So the sage, the sigil. We look at the back of the deck. We have another beautiful sigil with a bird here. This bird we'll later see on the Ace of Cups. I think I'll be showing you the Ace of Cups. Wonderful card. Wonderful use of the bird, the Holy Spirit with the sigil here. So I love the box. It's a very, it's, what do we call this? A matte gloss finish for the a semi-gloss maybe, or a semi-matte finish on the box. Very sturdy. Yes? The box is held up wonderfully. The inside of the box, oh, see, I've got this all organized for myself. The inside of the box is just plain, right? But we don't need much from a box, I don't believe. It is held up, like I said, very well. I have, full disclosure, kept the box inside of a leather case when I travel around with it. So I've been a little bit more careful with this box than I was with the box for the Good Tarot. But it's held up very well. I used this deck before this deck dive, so yeah, the box has been very sturdy and usable and well designed. The next thing we're going to want to talk about is the guidebook, and let me pull out the guidebook here. The guidebook is small. Now, the guidebook for the first edition was much larger, but the contents of that guidebook and this guidebook are actually the same. So we're not losing anything by this smaller format. That fits perfectly inside the box, so that's great too. So what do we have? The contents. The contents are frankly minimal. Yes, their color, which is nice. The paper is glossy, so the images in the guidebook show up very nicely. We have the title page, right? We have a little bit of information about the Ritual Tarot, that this is the marked edition of the deck, and we'll talk about what that means when we look at the card backs. We look at the structure very briefly. There's not any interesting or unique information here, except for there is an extra card, which we will get to that in a little while. But you'll see for the major arcana, we've got a very nice large, let me show you the Fool itself. Yes, we have a very nice large image for the major arcana cards. We have a description of the card that does give us some information about what is shown in the card, but not all of it. We also have a reversed meaning in addition to upright keywords. And one thing that I really like with the guidebook is that we have card combination significances. Yeah. So, for example, the Fool card for intensifying cards. Yeah, we have the Hanged One or the Hanged Man, which will point towards acquiescence when they both show up together. Right. The Devil card, when the Devil shows up with the Fool, we have transcending limitations. When the Star card shows up with the Fool, we have inspiration and innocence, which makes sense, right? And when Judgment shows up with the Fool, we have spiritual renewal. Interesting, right? We also have countering cards. So when the Fool shows up with the Emperor, we have the idea of structure. So the Fool gets boxed in, perhaps, or has to deal with form. When the Hierophant shows up with the Fool, we have conformity. Now, the Fool who wants to go off on his own kind of needs to conform to society, to the situation at hand. When Death shows up with the Fool, we have endings and resolutions. And when the Four of Pentacles shows up, we have order. So the card pairings are not all for the major arcana only. Sometimes there are minor arcana cards here as well. Right? So that's good. That's very good. We've got a little bit of a quote, I think, on each one of the major arcana cards. No, that's not true. I'm sorry. That is not true. But this card's description starts with a quote from Jean-Luc Godard. He who jumps into the void owes no explanation to those who stand and watch. Yeah, the keywords are good. The keywords: new beginnings, birth, curiosity, setting forth into the unknown. We have reversed, yeah, folly, recklessness, madness. And we have a description of the upright card, and then reversed, we have the Fool could signify that there is folly afoot, that the seeker is being reckless. One of Bacchus's special powers was the ability to drive mortals insane. Be wary. lest your inclination for fantasy lead you off the edge of the cliff into the abyss. Now, why is she talking about Bacchus? Well, because the center of the card features the floating head of Dionysus, or to the Romans, Bacchus, or Liber, the god of the grape harvest, drunkenness, ecstasy, and ritual madness. In Latin, Liber simply translates to free. So this is the image she's talking about. Let me read the rest of this. The seeker cannot look the fool directly into the eyes because his intoxicated stare is multidimensional and delirious. Now notice we have a different eye collaged on top of the statue's face. We have a lot of that in this deck, right? There are extra eyes or different eyes collaged onto different faces in the deck. You'll notice there's an eye up here. I might point out some of that when we look at the cards in more detail. Where are we? Yes. The fool's head is suspended solely by a train of butterflies. You see this train of butterflies here? Emphasizing his tendency towards daydreaming and his detachment to reality. A satyr, archetypal companion of Dionysus, with a proclivity for Dionysian carousing, plays a pan flute for the two jesters to the left and right of him. So we have, this is the pan, and these are the two jesters, right? There is an air of playfulness, curiosity, and naivete. The fool is associated with the spring equinox and the element of air. Wonderful. So we get the reason for the butterflies. Well, we get that Bacchus is supported by the butterflies, but why is it butterflies? We're not really sure. Yeah? We get that this is Pan playing a flute, which is helpful. We get these two being jesters. Okay. I wouldn't have necessarily thought that this one was a jester, so that's helpful. Don't know why there are two fairies here, except fairies might be spring, butterflies might be spring. You notice we get the dog here, which is wonderful as well, but one thing that I really wished about the guidebook, and the more I used the guidebook, the more I checked the guidebook, the more I wished that there were more detailed descriptions of what the choices were and why the choices were made for these cards, right? It doesn't mean that I would always want to use those descriptions, but expecting that everyone is going to know what each one of these things is, for example, these fairies, and what they have to do with the fool, is expecting a little bit much, I think. And I know, yes, most of us read images intuitively, and most of us would probably have some sort of conscious or unconscious reference to fairies when they appear in other decks, so that would help. But still, I'd like to know why the creator made these choices for her, or him if it were made by a man, yes? So the guidebook is great for the major arcana, with those few caveats. On the other hand, when we get to the minors, we have 2 pages for all of the minors, starting from the ace to the king, which is okay. They're good reminders for us, but they don't describe any of the visual images on any of the minor arcana cards, and that was disappointing for me, personally. I really wish there was more explanation about what what the creator used to create the collages in the minors, especially. Yeah. However, the usability of the guidebook is good. I like the design of the guidebook. We have a match of the cover of the box, and we have this wonderful, the sigil here, and I love this bodhisattva image on the back of the cover. Lovely, beautiful design. We don't have any spreads in this deck. I'm sorry, in this guidebook. We don't have any spreads. The last page of the guidebook is about the author, which is wonderful. Lovely picture of the author, beautiful woman. in a beautiful space. We get an image of the back design for the cards here. And okay, so I have used this book, but you can see that this binding is not very strong. Just FYI, for your information. Yeah, but we don't have any spreads here. We don't have all that much history about what Tarot is. So yes, it's a very minimal guidebook, but that's okay for me. If you need more in a guidebook, you might need to supplement this guidebook with other information. So yes, generally loved it. I loved the card combinations in the Major Arcanas, and I read those every time that a Major Arcana card came up in a reading that when I was using this deck for this month. Yes, so wonderful stuff, very wonderful stuff. The next thing I'd like to go into is card quality. Now, this is not the whole deck. This is only part of the deck because I've got the rest of the deck sectioned off and partitioned by things I want to talk about. So, this is only part of the deck. The card quality is stiff. Yes, the cards are very, very stiff. They're difficult to shuffle. They've held up okay, but there has been some chipping. You can probably see... Let's see. Can you see some of this? So yes, there's a little bit of chipping here, going right there, right? It's not horribly noticeable, but there is some. And this is, again, only after a month's use. I thought that this deck would start to break in a little bit more as I worked with it over the last month. It did not break in as much as I thought it would. There was a moment when I thought, oh, yes, okay, so it's starting to get a little bit more flexible, but that was a little bit of a, it was wishful thinking, yeah? I like the backs, love the backs. Now, this is the marked edition, right? The wonderful thing about this deck is, even though the fronts of the cards are not marked by anything. We don't see numbers, we don't see titles, we see nothing on the front. On the back, do you know who this is? Can you guess? Yeah, this is the Knight of Swords. Now, if you see here, can you see this right here? It says Knight of Swords. Yeah, let me show you the next card. Not here, but in a different location, it says Queen of Cups. Can you see that? And then in another card, we have the Six of Cups here. And then in another card, we have the Knight of Wands here. And then here, we have the Eight of Wands. So you see that the titles of the cards are not always in the same place. They're small, so that when you shuffle them, you can tell whether it's upright or reversed. Yes, that doesn't bother me. If that bothers you, just so you know, that could be problematic for you, not a problem for me. You cannot see and you can't anticipate where the title is going to be around this circle. So even though the titles are on the backs, it doesn't really affect how I would select cards. Yeah? Because frankly, when they're spread out, when you are shuffling, when you're cutting, you really can't see them. You can't see the titles. Which is good, I think. But then when you do focus and you do try to find it, it might take a second, but you can find the titles. Yes, that's all wonderful. Now, shuffling. Like I said, shuffling is a challenge. If you are a riffle shuffler, if you like to riffle shuffle, do you hear that? It's possible. This is only about a quarter of the deck. When you've got the whole deck here to shuffle, you need to have big hands and strong fingers to be able to riffle shuffle this deck. Yeah? And even with just part of the deck, it takes a little bit of strength. Overhand shuffling. For me, these cards are a little bit slippery, and I have to be very conscious as I overhand shuffle not to, like, that happens a lot for me in this deck. Yeah? Cards will just flip over like that, which is interesting. Do you know what card this is? This is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of Pentacles, I believe, right? Let's see. The 6 of Pentacles. Which is helpful because this looks a little bit like it might possibly be the 5 of Pentacles. Yeah? These two people look not very happy. Yeah, sure, there's this hand giving out the Pentacles, but I did notice in this deck that there were some cards that, before I counted, my first feel of the card was a different card than what it was. Yeah, this makes me think of the 5 of Pentacles, where the people are outside of the church and they are looking somewhat destitute. These two people look like they're outside of perhaps a large formal building, like a church, not a church, but like a church, and they look destitute. And so my first thought, seeing this card is, oh, it's the 5 of Pentacles. But no, I had to go back and count. Yeah? That doesn't mean I don't like it. It does mean that I do sometimes get confused, right? So generally, cardstock is stiff. It seems pretty durable, but it is a little challenging for me to shuffle. For overhand, it really takes a lot of physical strength, hand strength. For riffle shuffling, it takes a lot of hand strength. For overhand shuffling, I have to be careful. If slippery cards are not a problem for you for overhand shuffling, great. For me, I have to be really, really, really careful when I overhand shuffle this deck. It's not true of all decks, but definitely for this deck. Okay, so artwork. I love the artwork. I really do. And I'm not a collage deck kind of person. Now, you'll notice that it is pretty much a pip deck, but we get ideas of what the cards might mean a little bit. So for example, how many swords do you see here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 swords, right? 6 of swords is generally the one where the guy is in the boat with another 2 people and they're moving across a river. This is from the Smith-Waite deck, right? So you get this idea, we don't see a boat, but we do have the water. We do have what could be the fairy person, right? The fairy man, the fairy woman, the fairy person. Yeah? One thing that still, it doesn't bother me so much as it sometimes briefly confuses me, that the wands are arrows. Because when I think of arrows, I think of weapons, and when I think of weapons, I think of swords. Yeah, my first thought when I see these is, oh, those are swords. I mean, those are to replace swords, not to replace wands. I know that's my own little weird proclivity, my own weird problem, but that is a problem for me. But what is this? This would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of wands. Very much like the Smith-Waite, these 8 wands or arrows are flying down from the sky. Yeah, we were just talking about this one. Yeah, we got the hand with the coin and the 2 people ostensibly there to receive the coins in front of some kind of a wealthy looking building, perhaps. So, swords. How many swords do we see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of swords. Love this card. Love this card. I love the 8 of swords. You see how this figure here is somehow seems bound up, even though it's not really the same kind of bound by ropes, but the figure feels bound in this. By the image itself, right? By this cutout. I love that we got these 2 little goats down there at the bottom. And I just want to double check that this is the 8 of swords, right? So I still need to double check sometimes. Sometimes it does feel like there is a sword. Okay, sometimes I don't see all of the swords. Sometimes there's a sword in a different place from most of the other ones that is a little difficult to see. So that is another reason why I need to double check the backs even now when I'm using this deck. Love this King of Wands, for example. Yeah, you see the lion here, we see the wand, we see the flames coming up from his crown, right? Lovely, lovely image. We've got the what looks like a crystalline structure growing up here. Not exactly sure what that means, but we do see the leadership of the world even. Yeah? And let me just double check that this is the King of Wands. And yes, the King of Wands. So, love the art. I do love the collage artwork in this deck, even though, like I said, I'm not that much of a collage person. I'm not that much of a collage deck person. But this one really does draw me in. It makes me want to think about what I see. Sometimes I recognize bits and pieces from other artwork, which is exciting to me. Yeah. I like that there's a diversity of kinds of images in this deck. We don't really get diversity. Oops, here's the title card. Sorry. We don't really get diversity of people so much because there aren't that many real people in the deck. They're bits of artwork. Yeah. We do get some different. Okay, there's a person there, but they turned her into a cyclops. Mostly what we see is artwork, statue, and some painted artwork. Now, a lot of statue is used in this deck. Now, stone faces, stone heads, stone bodies. Love this card, right? Look at that, the expression on that guy's face. The Knight of Wands. Look at that fire. How do I know it's the knight? Okay, so how do you know? Well, you see this animal here? This is the knight's horse. And you can probably also tell by the face that this is a face of somebody who is more fiery, active than the fiery leader of the king. Yeah? This, for me, the knights are air of fire. I'm sorry, the knights are air. So the Knight of Wands is air of fire for me, not fire of fire. For me, knights are air, so air of fire. And air really makes fire burn brighter, right? So that's why, for me, the Knight of Wands is the fieriest of the two, the king and the knight, because the knight has that air added to it, which makes the fire burn hotter. Does that make sense? So, anyways, yes, you can tell that this is the Knight of Wands by the animal here. There will be a horse or a horse-like creature on all of the knight cards, the Knight of Wands. So the artwork, again, very, very good. How does it read? There is a good intuitive. Let me bring this back so you have something to look at. There's a good intuitive flow, I think. I can see a symbolic richness in each of the cards, especially the court cards and especially the major arcana and a lot of the minor arcana. Yeah, for example, look at this one, the 10 of coins, the 10 of pentacles. We get that house in the background, right? We get that sense of wealth. You notice the extra eye collaged on top of the face of the statue here? Now that happens very often in the deck. But we've got that idea of legacy, of wealth, of inheritance with this castle in the background. Even though we don't see the family, we don't see the dogs, we don't see the typical things that we remember from the Smith-Waite deck. It's not exactly a pip deck either, because we've got other symbols and images and statue people here to give us indications of meaning. Yeah? Let me just double check the number of coins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep, 10 of coins. So there is a symbolic richness. Oftentimes there will be repeated symbolic elements from between cards when they're put out in a spread of 3 or 4 or 9 or more. Yes? Which I enjoy, which helps my reading, which helps me dive deeper into the spread that I'm looking at. Does the significance come easily? Sometimes yes, sometimes not so much. And we'll get into that sometimes not so much in a little bit. The minor arcana number cards are generally easy to discern by counting the elements, but like I said, especially sometimes with the swords, it's difficult to see all of them. Let me go right into the cards I really liked. And I have a group of those right here. I've got a lot of them. If we look at the ratio of cards I do like and cards I don't like, there's a super high ratio of cards I do like. And let's start off with let's go this way. Okay, so let's start off with the aces. Here's the Ace of Wands. I love this Ace of Wands. Now, I love the shape of it. I love the landscape that it's in front of. It's simple, but it does have a lot of richness to it, right? I love even more the Ace of Swords, though. I love that we've got this idea of, it could be an explosion, but it could also be a volcano. But this sword cutting through the clouds seems really clear for me in this card. Yeah, I also like the Ace of Cups, and I mentioned that bird, right? Here's that bird that was on the back of the box, diving into the cup with this crystal formation. Yeah, we see the waves. It looks like maybe this is this is a mountain range of snow. But snow is water, right? Instead of a fish popping out of a cup, we've got a crystal, a sea crystal looks like a sea crystal to me, maybe even coral, popping up out of the cup with a bird flying down. I love the moon up here. Yeah? So if this were to come up with the moon card or another card with a moon, I might try seeing an association between those cards. I love the Two of Cups. I love this Shiva and Shakti image here on the front. I love notice the moon here. So a moon here, the moon and the Ace of Cups might show me relationship, right? Love the water down there at the bottom. Oh, and the way that she added decorative elements to the statues, just phenomenal. I love the Two of Pentacles as well. We don't really see the yin yang, but I see the yin yang in this even so, because we've got the dark cave or darkness here, and we've got the light sky. We've got that circular feel, right? You might see a lemniscate. I see yin yang, even though again it's not a yin yang. In this rock formation of having to balance, notice the extra eye. I love the Four of Swords. Now this is one where it was difficult for me to see all the swords. We have 1 here, 2, 3, and there's a sword right down here. But still, I love this. I love the angel over a coffin. You get those ideas of meditation, of recuperation, of being in a holy space, right? Of maybe also the angel praying over the coffin for healing or for awakening. Yeah? Love the Four of Pentacles here. This head reminds me of the Minotaur, though I'd looked it up and I couldn't find out what it is, but I'm almost sure it's not the Minotaur. Still, makes me think of the Minotaur. Feels like a very Roman-esque building in the background with like an aqueduct coming off here. I love the mask on this being. Fabulous. We've got this stability, this structure, maybe even a little bit of greed, thinking of the Minotaur, being locked away in the labyrinth. Love this Four of Cups. Yeah, I can see ennui in her face. Yeah, I can see the ennui in this general atmosphere of this card. Love also the top and bottom borders added onto this of looks like etched fish. Very interesting. The artwork really does draw me in. I hope it draws you in as well. Love the Seven of Wands. The Seven of Wands. You can see that idea of the guy up on top of the hill, like these wands coming up from below, and him holding his one wand, and these having to defend from these other, arrows, but wands. Yeah, and a very harsh-looking environment. I love the Eight of Cups here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, of course, there's this extra cup on top, which is a little bit confusing, but I see this feeling, the idea of her rejecting or her getting ready to walk away from these cups. Do you see that? Also see the extra eye? Also see the moon in the sky? Also see the daisies down here? So there are little elements to draw us in. Daisies and skulls. Interesting combination, right? The 9 of swords, or wands, I'm sorry, wands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of wands, right? I love that her hat, this is the Tower of Babel from another image. I love that the Tower of Babel, the thing which breaks down and is, right now looks like it's still standing, but is going to break down, is her head, is her hat. So we got that idea of standing in front of or behind a wall of wands, but there's this sense that this is going to break down. It's imminent that this breakdown is going to happen. Yeah? I'm still standing, but how long? Who knows? I love the 9 of cups here. Yeah? Look how content and satisfied this looks like a Brahmin figure to me. Now, is here. Out in nature, wonderful, beautiful natural environment. Yeah? Looking very composed and at ease. And what do we have next? It is the 9 of swords. Love this. Look at the artwork, Guernica, in the background, right? I love this image here, struggling. I love the way that these eyes glow, right? Seeing things that we don't want to see, perhaps. Frightening things, seeing frightening things. The anxiety in this card is poignant. And then we have the 9 of Pentacles. Yeah, we got this lady sitting with her little lamb on her knee. We got a crown on her head. Very life of luxury. Look at the sleeves, how rich her garments are. It's all wonderfully beautiful. And let's see, the 10 of Cups. I love this 10 of Cups with these drunken buddies here. But they're happy. They're joyful. They're joyful in their cups, right? So we don't have the family. I like that it's 2 guys here instead of 2 women, for example, or a family of people. I like that it's 2 guys here, personally, 2 male figures, enjoying each other's company and sharing a deep, long-term bond, I believe, in this card. Okay, so there are some of the cards from the Minor Arcana that I love. Now let me show you some of the cards that I love from the court cards. Let's see, I think those are next. Court cards and then... Oh, no. What is this? Let's see, which are these cards? These are... Okay, yes, okay. So, backwards. These are, let's start off with the High Priestess. I love the High Priestess. Yeah, I love her horned hat. We got the pillars. I love this snake. This snake was really important in a reading that I did for a friend of mine. And this snake here and a snake in another card really seemed to be drawing the 2 cards together. The moon again up here, right? Look at the richness, the camel, which reminds me of the Thoth deck. So some people think that the Ritual Tarot is a very Thothy, and I agree that there are minor Thoth elements generally. There's one card that is more than that, but there are generally minor Thoth elements. But for me, it's mostly Smith-Waite. Yeah, especially when you look at the Minor Arcana, I see 100% Smith-Waite there. Here we have the Empress. Notice the baby. Love the baby. Love the fruit around her. The bee. The unicorn here. Love all of that. Yeah? I love the Emperor even. Look at the ram for Aries, right? Ram here. Ram's-headed Emperor down here. Love that. The strength of this card. The rocky, dry formation in the background. Very Smith-Waite, right? Very red. But not as red and yellow as the Thoth deck by Harris Crowley, right? By Lady Frida Harris and Aleister Crowley. Love the Hermit card. See how his brain is exposed and he's got his third eye here? And the brain is open to the universe, yeah? even though his body is there on the mountain with the clouds and all of that. Fabulous card. Fabulous card. Love the strength card. Even though this little being here on her lap, it looks a little bit grotesque or a little bit like a mutant animal, but still, we got that idea. We got pomegranates here. We got she and this creature here, this oddly eyed creature, are in wonderful relationship, right? And she's looking at this beautiful stag goblet. I don't really get what that is right off the top of my head, but I do see that the feminine kind of strength that we recall from the Smith-Waite deck. Now we're going to see the new card, not the new card, the Thoth card for this deck. Now, which is this card, the Lust card. So we do have a Lust card and a Strength card in this deck. And you'll notice that they're not numbered. So if you want Strength to be 11 and Justice to be 8, that's great. If you want Strength to be 8 and Justice to be 11, that's great. There are no numbers. You do you, boo, right? But I love this, the Lady of Babylon for this, the Lust card. We've got the seven-headed creature down here, dragon, which is wonderful. Yeah, we got that sense of lava flowing, this subterranean, fiery, molten sexuality even here. And we also have the heavens up above. I love this beautiful image. It's a beautiful image, one of my favorites in the deck. And then we have the Hanged Man, really my favorite in the deck. Love this. You see that the Hanged Man is hanging, of course called the Hanged One in the book, but to me it's the Hanged Man. We see a picture of Saint Sebastian, one of my favorite saints. We see a compass here, which is described in the guidebook as the Hanged Man also wanting or finding his, her, or their direction, right? Beautiful card, beautiful images. We see the celestial bodies up here. We see a castle. So much to look at, so much to see. Yeah, an extra eye pasted on, collaged onto the Hanged Man's head. Just phenomenal. And then we have Temperance. I love this Temperance card. We've got 1 foot in the water. We got 1 foot on land. If that's important to you, you got it. Yeah, we've got this, the Temperance figure holding a bird in flight, which is phenomenal. And instead of a sun, little sun on the forehead, we got this burst of sunlight behind the figure. Gold in sunlight. And for me, the Temperance card is a card of alchemy, of transmutation, of one combining things so that we get the new thing. Yeah, in addition to harmony. In addition to harmony, it's the alchemy of bringing the Red King and the White Queen together so that we have gold. Yeah, spiritual gold. And this gold radiance. We got the divine eye above here as well. Love all of that. The Tower card. I love this Tower card. See the tower in flames in the background. We see figures falling. We see Hercules struggling with the snake, I believe. Yeah, we've got animals, angry animals. We've got scared animals. We got Medusa's head down here at the bottom. There's so much to see, so much richness. Love the border of moths up at the top, yeah? I'm sorry, no, not moths. I think they're owls. Owls at the top. You see the owl eye, yeah? The beak. Very interesting. Beautiful card. And we have, what is this? What do you think this is? This is the moon. I love that we've got a very ancient Venus down here with a rabbit. Rabbit in the moon? Yeah? We got the bird here is being clutched and held from flying away. We got a two-headed creature above. We do have the towers here and here. We have the wolf there. We've got perhaps Lilith, maybe, at the top. And maybe Eve down here, which would not be on the moon card for Crowley. Those two show up in the lover card, I believe, for Crowley. So it's interesting that they're here in this deck. And then we have the king, court cards. I love the King of Swords. Love the sword. Love the wise look of the face. Love the owl coming down from above. Love this wing reminding us of the air quality of the swords. Now for me, the King of Swords is fire of air. Just saying. And the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords is really my favorite court card in this tarot. Now, of all the court cards, the Queen of Swords is almost always my favorite. I love this one. I love the black background, reminding us of, perhaps if you read it that way, the widow's weeds kind of feeling, right? But we have this idea of mental clarity, but we also have grief a little bit shown. Maybe a little bit too emphasized for my taste, but we have that. We have the third eye. She sees clearly. The bird is in flight, right? She can see far. She can see clearly. She has a razor sharp wit. She's clarity. She's not going to tolerate fools, right? And here we have the Princess of Swords. And this is the only princess that I really like in this deck. Instead of pages, we have princesses. And so people say, well, that makes it a Thoth deck. But does it really? For me, no. The Princess of Swords for a Thoth deck would be there defending a temple, but we don't really get that. But we do have that idea of the Princess or Page of Swords being curious, wondering what's going on, thinking and being ready to ask questions, right? Love the birds in flight. Love the bird's wings here. Now, to me, is this a Princess of Wands or is this a Prince of Wands? To me, this kind of looks like a male figure. I don't know. Just saying. Looks like a male figure to me on the Princess. The title is Princess of Swords card. But still, I love this card. I really love the design of it too. I love the Queen of Wands. I love the cat. Yeah, the black cat's there. We've got this regal Egyptian head with gold in the background and a wand, very powerful looking wand there. I love the King of Cups. I love that this coral is coming out of his head. I love that he's rising up out of the water and he's got his hand out like Poseidon or Neptune coming up out of the sea. We got that shell above him as well. Powerful card, right? And then last but not least, the Queen of Pentacles. Yeah, this earth, this rock above her head. Now she looks very stately. She looks comfortable. She looks like she has the resources she wants and needs and can do anything that needs to be done. I love those court cards. Just love, love, love them. Okay, so those are the court cards I love. Those are the minors I love and the majors I love. Now, talking about some of the cards I don't really love all that much. And let's start off with the ones that I think are beautiful but are confusing. Yeah? And I'll just briefly show you why I think they're confusing. So let's start off with this card. This is the, and dang it, I have to look at it again. It is the King of Pentacles. And yeah, you could say, okay, he looks like a king. But this does not look like a pentacle to me. This could be, I don't know, he looks like he could be the emperor. He could be something else. This doesn't ring pentacle or coin to me. It looks too big and looks too decorated compared to the other pentacle disc coin things in this deck. So this is confusing for me. The next one, this is the Princess of Wands. Yes, this is the Princess of Wands. But if I don't remember which is the Queen of Wands, she looks a little old to be a princess. She looks a little pregnant to be a princess to me. So I think Queen of Wands when I see her. She just looks, or Empress even, yeah? She doesn't look young page. I don't know what to do with this wonderful wand that I have kind of page to me. The same way that the Page of Swords looked young and not thinking and ready to question. She looks like she's an adult, a pregnant adult, who knows what she's going to do. You know? I don't get that princess vibe from her. Okay, so this is the Fool card, which I said, I love the image, I love the artwork. And I see the dog, but this combination kind of reminds me of the Fool, but it's not prominent as some of the other parts of the image, and it's just a little confusing to me. Yeah? This card confuses me, and I need to look at the card back to see what it is. The Fool's Journey is new to this deck, so that's why it's confusing, and I need to look at the book. It's not a standard tarot deck card, but it is a good card, and it's shown up in readings a couple of times, and I thought it was wonderful. This skeleton here praying makes me think of the Judgment card, though, when I see this card. The flower growing out of the skull also makes me think maybe it's the Death card, but it's not, and it's not. It's the and then this thing down here makes me think, oh, maybe it's the Devil with the two figures here, but it's not. Yeah, it's the Fool's Journey card, so I get a little confused. This card, love this card. I really do love this card. But I look at this card and what do I see? I see, Hermit? No, it's not the Hermit. Devil? Is it the Devil? Let me double check. I think it is the Devil. No, it's the Hierophant. This is the Hierophant. And to this day, I still can't see the Hierophant. This creature, this wonderful dragon, does not make me think Hierophant. These butterflies do not make me think Hierophant, you know? But still, it's a beautiful card. And I love it. And there's a lot to see in the card. It just doesn't sing Hierophant to me. Whereas most of the other cards, they do really call out their names to me. This card. Now I know it. Now I know that this is the Judgment card. I'm sorry, not the Justice card. The Justice card. Right, the Justice card. But I can also see maybe the Judgment card. I don't know. Because I don't see balances. I don't see scales. I don't see other things that make me think of justice. This is different. This is Salome with the head of John the Baptist. Okay, so she got her revenge, but is that what we want for justice? I'm not sure. Yeah? So it's a beautiful card. I love the card. But this really makes me stretch outside of my normal comfort zone when reading this deck. This card, this is the Judgment card. And I really still don't really understand completely why this is the Judgment card. Yeah? I mean, guess I can see these people down in what could be hell-ish, a hellish area. Now we see the two Egyptian gods on the sides, but see the whole divine eye above. I don't know. This card is challenging for me. Beautiful though. This is the. What is this? This is the Star card, and I just don't. I see this and I think moon. You know what I'm saying? I see this, I think moon. This looks like it's probably a star moth, I guess. I don't know. It looks like a moon moth to me. I don't know. I don't know my moths. But this wonderful, beautiful image by Klimt. Love the artwork. I love the artwork. This tower in the background, but it looks like the moon to me when I see this. You know what I'm saying? Even though I know there's another moon card. And then finally, we have, this is the world. And I swear to God, I do not see why this is the world. I don't see the things that I want to see in a world card. So this one really makes me think, what the heck? But really, considering this is one or maybe two cards in the deck that make me think, what the heck, in a collage deck, that's not so bad. That really is pretty good. But again, I love the artwork. I'm not saying I don't like the card. It's just the card makes me say, what the heck? What am I supposed to say here? What am I supposed to see here? Now, there are cards that I just don't like very much at all. Not because of anything, but I just don't really like them. It's not going to stop me from using the deck. Like I said, I love the deck. The first one is this card, which is the... who the heck are you? You are the Princess of Pentacles. Yeah? Why? This animal down here makes me think it's a knight. This card is more than confusing for me. She doesn't look like a Princess of Pentacles. She looks like a Knight of perhaps Pentacles. And that irritates me a little bit. You know? This card. I don't like this card. When I see this card, I think, oh, it must be the 1, 2, 3 of cups. What is it? It's the Princess of Cups. But there are so many cups there. How am I supposed to know that these cups are not... I'm not supposed to count these cups. I'm supposed to count the other cups, but not these cups. You know? That's if it were just one cup on her head, I might say, okay, yeah, I can get that. But this is confusing to me, and it almost seems deliberately confusing to me. This is the Chariot card. I do not like the Chariot card. Yeah? Yes, there's Cancer here. But this Cancer sign is on other cards that make me think that, oh, that must be the Chariot card, but it's not the Chariot card, right? Yeah, there's a Sphinx here, but I don't see a chariot. I don't see a vehicle. I don't see what it is that I'm looking at. Do you understand? So this card is irritating to me. This card is irritating to me because when I see this card, I think, oh, 1, 2. Oh, this must be the Chariot. This is not the Chariot. This is the Knight of Pentacles. Knight of Pentacles. Yeah? But when I see this card, I think Chariot. The two animals in front, we got the prince behind, we got kind of like a disc that might be from the back of the chariot itself. We got another horse above there. I don't know. So this is a little irritatingly confusing to me. And then the land above, you know, that's okay. It's okay. So what is this card? So this is the Knight of Cups. But notice, crab right there. Two horses. I think, oh, this is the Chariot. No, it's not the Chariot. This is the Knight of Cups. Now, why is this crab irritating? Because to me, if we're associating the court cards with the zodiac, the crab, Cancer, should be the Queen of Cups, not the Knight of Cups. Yeah, the Knight of Cups should be what? Should be mutable, right? I think, yes, mutable. Should be Pisces is the king. Scorpio, that's right, should be fixed. Scorpio should be the knight. So Cancer should go to the queen. This is definitely not the queen. It must be the Chariot. It's not the Chariot. You see what I mean? This card here. I think this might be the Judgment card. Now we got the angel blowing up above. Right? We got this being below. This is the sun. And this card confuses me. And it feels deliberately confusing to me. This baby up there in the sun, I don't know. Instead of a baby on the horse, I guess. Let me just double check to make sure it is the sun card. Yeah, it's the sun. See, I don't know. This makes me think Judgment or something else. But it's not. And that irritates me a little bit. Okay, so Minor Arcana. This is the Five of Wands. I see wheel here. I don't see conflict. I see Dharma. I see the Buddhist wheel. I see other things, but I don't see the meaning of the Five of Wands in this card, and the background doesn't help me either. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so that card irritates me almost as much as the Ten of Wands, which looks to me like, well, this could be that feeling of the energy about to take off, like an Eight of Wands card, but I don't see burden here. You know, I don't see that feeling of a heavy weight to be carried. I see stuff that's about to take off into the sky, like a launching point. So let's look at these two cards together. It's because of these two cards together that I'm a little bit disappointed with these two cards, because they both seem to be saying the same thing, even though one is 2 and one is 3. I see the same kind of person looking out in just the same direction, planning. They both look like they're planning. Now maybe you'd say that, well, this one is dry and barren and this one has some growth. Yeah, maybe, but it doesn't satisfy me for those two cards. The next one is this one. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of Pentacles. Yeah? I don't see that idea of waiting and waiting for things to grow, or waiting for, or being, observing and watching things happen to make sure that they're happening in the right way. I don't see any of that. What I see are these 7 pentacles pasted on top of a landscape with sheep. That doesn't speak to me. Yeah, that doesn't really speak to me. Whereas most of the other minor arcana cards do. This card, the 7 of Cups, also does not really speak to me. Yes, all of the cups are different. I do see a crystal inside of this one. I see something inside of... I see nothing inside of these cards. These cups, I'm sorry. These cups. So I'm not really sure... I don't get the idea of illusion or imagination or any of that when I see this. I see sensuality, frankly. And I've never thought of sensuality when I've thought of the 7 of Cups card, personally. So I find that a little bit irritating. But, so these are the cards that are just irritating to me. The other ones I think are wonderful. They confuse me a little bit, but I think they're beautiful cards. So, considering the number of cards in a deck, that's a very small number of cards to be irritated with, I think. So, and I still love the artwork. I love the artwork of the entire deck. I enjoy reading with the deck. So, friends, let me do something. I'm going to show you what I got when I did a deck interview with this deck. So let me show you the interview spread right now, and we will look at it together. Okay, so here we go. Here's that spread. Friends, because this spread is big and the images on the cards are detailed, I didn't want to pull the camera so high up that you could see the entire spread, and so I decided to keep the card close so we can see the images clearly on the cards. And instead of showing them in the format of the spread, I'll show you the spread as it's broken down card by card. So the first card of the spread, which was at the top, was this card. Was the Lust card, which again, it's one of my favorite cards of the deck. Yeah, it's almost my favorite card, but if you know me, you know the Hanged Man, the Hanged One is always my favorite if I like the deck a lot. And I like this deck a lot. So let me read you what it says about the Lust card. For me, just so you know, Lust for me is what? It's energy, action, it's sex, it's magic, it's the drive and passion are ideas I have for the Lust card. The beast here with the different heads is our primal nature, our passions, right? Our sensations. And the heads suggest 7 questions for me. For example, the angel, what aspects lead to a deeper relationship with the universe? Another head could be a saint. In what way are our values being met? Now, one of them could be a poet. What is the role of whatever subject we're talking about in the narrative of our story? Yeah. One head is of an adulterous woman. What roles will be broken? Now, one is a man of valor. What aspects require bravery? One of them is the satyr. What aspects feel wild and unfettered? One is a lion serpent. What is the mystery at the heart of whatever we're reading for? Yeah, I read this beast here with the suggestion of other people who have described Aleister Crowley's idea of this card. I read this card very deeply. Also, because this card is also associated with Leo, according to the Golden Dawn tradition. Not my favorite tradition for zodiacal associations, but because this card is associated with Leo, my zodiacal sign, my sun sign, is Leo. So that's another reason why I love the Lust card. Just saying. So let me read a little bit of what the Lust card means according to Tierra May. So we have strength is there. Where are you? The length. Here we go, Lust. So, the harlot of Babylon is the central archetype of this card. Lust represents the dark feminine. So that's the question that this is responding to is, who are you, deck? Who are you, Ritual Tarot? So the Ritual Tarot is the harlot of Babylon. She is the dark feminine. Yeah? She has many names. She is Lilith. She is Hecate. She is Kali. She is Nama. She is Metzili. She is Sekhmet. She is the Scarlet Woman. She is the patron saint of horrors, hellions, demons, and beasts, mother of all abominations of the earth. She alone wields the secret power to translate shadow into fire. That's who this deck is, according to this deck. Yeah? Lust is an invitation to initiate heightened sensory experiences. Yeah? We see tactily, we see when we look at this deck, our senses are heightened. We're drawn into, and we can feel tactically with our eyes. We can smell with our eyes. We can hear the sound of this lava flowing through our eyes, right? Deep knowing through deep feeling. Deception will be unmasked, and unseen perils will be revealed and avoided through uninhibited access to the senses. That's what this deck is, according to itself. And I agree. I totally agree with that assessment, that self-assessment of the deck. That's who this deck is. It's that dark feminine energy. It's that sensuality and the senses and revealing the truth through all of that. Yeah? And so the next question is, what are your strengths? And the card that came up for what are your strengths is, I'm drawing the backwards, is the Eight of Pentacles, right? Mastery. Being in charge, knowing your craft, knowing what to do. And you'll notice that we have this zodiacal wheel behind the Eight Pentacles, right? So, knowing what to do over time through cycles. Being able to see into the divine meanings of things as we do our work, I think is what this says to me. And we have the third eye here as well. As we do our work, we see with our inner eye. And that's what this deck is good for and strong at. The next question is, what are the weak points? And the weak points of this deck is one of the cards I don't like, which makes absolute sense. Right? So the weak points are that the deck does perhaps tend to give us maybe a little bit of illusion. We have to be able to remember how the Lust card tells us to see past the untruths. Well, some of the untruths that we might see might be on the surface of the deck as well. Yeah? So we need to see through, but we can also perhaps even daydream with the deck. So on the more positive side of the weakness is that there might be some daydreaming that can go on. There might be some flights of fancy, but there could be some illusion that needs to be seen through as well. And it might make us give us a little bit of difficulty making choices, because there's so much to see in the deck, right? So that's possible as well. The next prompt is, what are you here to teach me or us? And we have the Hierophant, right? This deck is here to teach us to look within. And in looking within, we see the heavens. Remember, the heavens that were kind of indicated in that work that we do with the deck, mastering our craft. We go within and we're taught to look within to see the heavens. We're taught to open up our inner eye to see the celestial bodies, to see divine action in the world below, through the heavenly spheres, and through our contemplation of those. Right? Does that make sense so far? And then the next prompt is, what blessing can I receive from you? And we talked about this card briefly, the Six of Swords, right? This deck can help us move on to clearer waters, move on from past difficulties or trauma even, and move on to clearer waters, carrying what we've learned with us, but going from rougher seas to smoother seas. This card can help us. And you'll notice a little bit of the chipping here on the corners. Yeah, you see a little bit of chipping here and here, where showing a little bit. Okay. What's next? What's next is how can we best work with each other? And it's this card, the King of Wands. Now, how can we work best with each other? We want to inhabit our own independence, our own leadership. We want to grab the wand with our hands and wield our power with this deck. And from our third eye, we have the divine flame emanating. So we recognize our strengths. And that's how we can best work with the deck. Listening perhaps even to our inner animal too. Yeah, see the lion down here? And so what is the probable outcome of our interaction? We have the joining of the couple, right? We have the Two of Cups. Shiva and Shakti come and unite. So we unify. Now we could be unifying with a partner, with a lover, but we could also be unifying our aspects of self. Our male and female aspects, which we all have, can come together, can join to form the hermaphrodite, the androgyne, which we all are. If we allow ourselves to access and to inhabit and to recognize and integrate all aspects of self, because we have all aspects of masculine, feminine, extrovert, introvert, all of those things within us. Active, passive, all of that. If we can integrate those things, we become the androgyne. We become the self-actualized being. Yes? And this is what is a possible result of using this deck. And I agree with the deck's self-assessment, especially after working with it for over a month now. I really do agree with the strength and power and the sensuality and the lushness of this deck that it proclaims itself to have. And it is true. It is very true. What do you think? Does that make sense to you? If it does, let me know in the comments below. If it does not, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. What do you think? Do you have this deck? Now, do you use this deck? I'd love to hear. Now, what do I think? Who is this deck best for? I think this deck is really not a beginner-friendly deck. Okay, so you might argue with me. You might say, well, if you learn to read intuitively, yes, you could use any deck in the world, an oracle deck, a magazine, and you could read intuitively. Yes. But I think to really get the richness of this deck, having a strong foundation in Tarot first is very beneficial. What kinds of readings? I don't really do kinds of readings with decks, so I can't really answer that question. I think this deck can be any kind of reading, but maybe... No, I've used it for all kinds of things. I've used it for relationships. I've used it for self-development. I've used it for making choices. It's been very functional in everything I've read it with, I believe. Have I found a personal connection with the deck? I do think I have. In fact, so much so that I did a reading for a friend, and I won't say what card it was, but I said, you know, if this card I was about to lay the cards, and I said, you know, if this card shows up, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to break up. I'm going to crack up and burst out. And I did. I cracked because that card came out. So I really do feel that this deck and I communicate well and have communicated even better the more I've used it. And I recommend the deck. I do. Even though there are a group of cards that irritate me in this deck, still, I am going to continue using this deck, and I love this deck, and I find the deck challenging in a very positive way. And I hope that you will decide to get this deck too, because I do highly recommend it, especially if you've been reading Tarot for a little while. I think this is a great next step in reading development kind of deck. So friends, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you've used this deck, I'd love to hear from you. If you've used other collage decks and find this one more or less challenging, I'd love to hear that too. Now, just to let you know, if you're into tarot reviews or you're just curious about different decks, feel free to subscribe. I'll be sharing my insights with other decks in the future. I think this is going to be a continuing series. My hope is that this will be a help to the community to discover a little bit more about decks that maybe we're interested in and maybe other ways of seeing decks. Is there a deck you would like me to review? Let me know in the comments below, or head over to the community tab and let me know what decks you want me to do a review of. If I get decks, I will do that if I can. But recall that it will be not next week that a 1 month deep dive will be available. I've got my next deck already chosen, and I've started using it already. It's a deck that's going to be on Kickstarter soon, and I've forgotten the name of the deck, but it's a beautiful deck. And there's a 3rd edition coming out on Kickstarter in the next month, so I decided I'd use that as my deck dive for the next month. Yeah? So, what? Well, no, I'm not, just to let you know, I don't get any money, at least not yet, for doing any of this. I'm just using decks that I already have. And so, yeah, if you want to see more, let me know in the comments below. Hit the thumbs up button. Thank you for doing that, for subscribing to the channel. There will be a QR code for my online reading shop. If you want to have a reading with this deck, when you order a reading, just let me know. Please use the Ritual Tarot, and I will do that for you. And that QR code and web address will be up in just a moment. So friends, now and always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.